Forbes Riley here with the Forbes Factor, my absolute favorite hour of the week. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know, I'm always excited to tell you where in the world I am. This last week has been one of the most fantastic of the year. My partner and I started a company 3 years ago, and there's an award if you build an online funnel that grosses $1 million. They call it the 2 Comma Club. Well, this past week, my partner and I walked across stage to get a big plaque that says, you, in fact, in one funnel, made $1 million. We are officially part of the 2 Comma Club. It's something we set our sights on 3 years ago. And as you know how much I love the idea of manifesting, we didn't even know how we were doing it. We just did. We wanted it. We set our sights on it. Boom, we got it. And just very, very excited because in the world of building online coaching and trainings, it has been a long process for me. As many of you know, I've been through hell and back. And I did that with an eye towards you won't have to do that. So if you ever want to reach out to us and go to pitchsecretsmasterclass.com, I share my tips, my tricks, and all of my secrets in a very transparent way that I'm not the only one to benefit from all of these. And I paid a lot of dues to get here. And then I had one of the highlights of the year. You know, I get as a motivational speaker to perform in front of a lot of people, to speak in a lot of colleges and corporations. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I was hosting or co-hosting a TV series called The 2-Minute Drill with David Meltzer. And at our special honored dinner for that event, he brought in Guru Dev Sri Sri Rinpoche. I got to tell you, I didn't really know who he was at the time, although I am somebody who spent my 20s in and out of an ashram. I followed a guru, I learned meditation, I learned chanting, and the whole spiritual way of being in India that I treasure very much. It's one of the reasons I speak the way I do, I eat the way I do, and I love that. And I'd let it go for a while. Well, in walks this guru who apparently is wildly popular, and I forgive my naivete, didn't really know who he was. And I listened to him and I was completely captivated by this gentle spirit, this amazing man who has brokered deals between nations, who has spoken around the world. He came from a tiny little town in India. And when I had a chance to ask him a question about how he got there, he was so generous. Then he asked me about my speaking. When he left, his entourage, his team came up to me and said, hey, the guru would like a private audience with you. Now, of all the things that you get to do in your life, or you want to be acknowledged, you want to be noticed, that's probably one of my proudest moments. And I spoke about what I'm up to and the people that I focus on and who I'm helping with this point in my life. And they invited me to a thing called the World Culture Festival. They've done it twice before around the world. They had 1 million people in India, and they said they were doing it in Washington, D.C. They said they were going to have 500,000 people on the mall. Do you know what that is? That's between the Capitol building and the Lincoln Memorial, that entire stretch that you see during inaugurations. They asked me to be an honored guest, to sit on the stage. And I'm still just not quite sure what all of this is. Well, a few days ago, I flew up to Washington, D.C., and I have to tell you, I was in shock. Not only were there 150 countries represented, there were 18,000 dancers, performers from around the globe. And I'm going to shock my guest who's coming up in just a second, but a dear friend of ours was also in the mix, Dr. Robert Goldman. And I was so surprised and delighted to see a man who I hold in the highest esteem. He is a patent holder. He's a world record setter. He's one of the most amazing men on the planet. And he happened to be involved in this as well. I have pictures of this on my Facebook. I would love to share this with you. The World Culture Festival was all about peace. And the thing that struck me the most is as I'm looking at this gorgeous stage and the 500,000 people that are in the audience, I looked to my left and behind the stage was the Capitol building. And 2 nights ago, they were voting on whether they're going to shut the government down or not. And this entire audience is meditating and dancing and singing for one thing, world peace. And as they brought on leaders from around the globe, the former president and vice and minister, whatever they call in that country, the prime ministers of Ecuador, New Zealand, Japan, China. I mean, it was really that magnificent of the level of people who spoke. I don't think I've ever been around that. And we got to go to an honored lunch where, again, they spoke. And when Guru Dev did this meditation, I will swear that I was just transported somewhere else. Something's magical. And my hope for all of you listening to this is that you think about, what does world peace look like? What does it mean to be in harmony with people around you? To live your dream, but acknowledge other people's dreams and cultures that may be wildly different from you, but a world where everyone has a right to be. And so I am ignited, I'm on fire, I'm empowered. And it brings me great delight to introduce to you my one and only guest today. She has long been a hero of mine because she has been in almost more than 90 feature films as a martial artist. Now, there's not many women who've gotten to that level, and you're going to hear all about her. I had a chance to meet her many years ago, and I was inducted into one of the ceremonies because I've also been a martial artist, but not nearly at her level. I think I pretend to be a martial artist. She's the real deal. And she is the only female at that level. No one even comes close to her. I'll let you meet her. And then I've got some fun news about what we're going to be doing together. I could not be more blessed and honored to bring Cynthia Rothrock to my stage, the one and only rock star herself. And the crowd goes crazy.
Hi there.
Oh, you know, I've loved you long before I knew who you were. I mean, like I had seen you up there. I got mugged in the early 80s in Los Angeles. And I took my first martial arts class the day after, my first self-defense class the day after. I wish someone had said maybe I should have studied that before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I ended up in a dojo up in North Hollywood for 4 years doing Taekwondo. And that led to a love of martial arts that led to Aikido and Wing Chun. And I could go on and on. And here you are. I just manifested you. What is it, before we get to all the details, what does it feel like to be the woman who is that? Like you are the only woman in that space.
Well, there's a lot of women, that do a lot for martial arts and give back. I've just been doing it for a long time. I mean, this year it's 50 years that I've been involved in martial arts. And ever since then, from that day, I never stopped. Everything I do involves martial arts, like somewhat, and it's funny because like you said, we get all these awards, we get these lifetime achievement awards. And I feel like I'm just starting, even though I've been at it so long, it's, I just keep going. I just keep doing my best. I keep promoting martial arts, through all different forums, whether it's through classes or media or movies. And, I'm an advocate, like you said, you wish someone told you that sooner. I'm such an advocate that everybody should learn some self-defense, don't wait till something happens, but that way it could probably have been preventable,
How did you get started in that?
I started when I was 13, and I'm kind of like an out of the box kind of person. I like to do things that are different. I don't like to do things the easy way. My girlfriend's parents owned a health club, and it was called Elaine Powers. It was for women only. And on Sunday, they would close the gym, and that's when they would clean the equipment. So they had a big open room for exercise. It was carpeted all in pink. And while they were cleaning the equipment, my friend and I would go down and do flips and rolls. And, we would just have a grand time in this big room. Well, then when they got done cleaning, the parents came in and they had their karate uniforms on and they started practicing their movements. And I was like, what is that? Yeah. And they said, well, we're learning Tung Sudo. And they said, we learn how to defend ourselves with our hands and feet. And I thought, wow, what a different concept. I've never heard of anything like that. And I liked the uniform, and I was like, wow, I want to get a belt someday. So I went home. I told my mom, I said, I want to study martial arts. And she thought I was crazy, but my mom was always very supportive in anything I wanted to do. So she signed me up at the Scranton Karate School.
And it's funny. Here's a crazy story. I don't know how it fits into my entire life. Do you remember a bookmobile? Like would drive around and you could get books. You could go outside, like it would like an ice cream truck. Only it was a bookmobile.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Right. The very first book I ever bought, and I'm not sure why, and I still have it, is a small little book about Aikido.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure what drew it to me. And then I would watch movies about these martial arts or living in Tibet or studying all of this. The fact that you got to live that. How many years did you train in the beginning? What was in Tung Sudo?
Well, when I started off doing it twice a week, and this was back in the mid 70s. So at that time, there weren't that many women involved in martial arts. And as a matter of fact, not that many people were involved in martial arts at that time. And I started off two times a week, and I was a young girl and I'm in a class with all guys and I felt intimidated. I felt like I couldn't shout, I could not get this turn that I was trying to practice. And I started getting a little defeated. The second class, they put me in a sparring class with a guy and he hit me in the head, almost knocked me out.
Oh,
And
wow.
my instructor said, don't use your head to block. And I was like, oh my gosh. Then, we had to do so many push-ups. If someone was doing something incorrectly, everybody had to do 100 push-ups. It was a total different time back then in training. And then I learned a front kick, and someone came up and said, try to break this board. And it was a half a board. So it was hard to break a board, but never for a beginner. But this was a half a board with a big knot in it. And I broke my toe. So I was like, oh, I don't know about this. And I actually told my mom, I don't think this is for me. And I'm sitting in class one day, and my mom said, well, I signed you up for 4 months. You're going to do this. And this is like a lifetime lesson I learned. My teacher gave a speech about quitters, how quitters are losers. And if you have a negative attitude, you're never going to succeed. And if your training isn't coming along how it should, it's because of the way you look at things, you're not practicing. And I thought this speech was focused right at me. And I started thinking, yeah, I have a bad attitude. So I started thinking, I love push-ups. Push-ups are great. Push-ups will make my upper body stronger, and then I just kept practicing that move. And then finally I got it. And then I've realized, it's all about, changing your attitude on things. And I went from training 2 days a week to 3 days a week to 4 days a week to 5 days a week.
Wow. Well, that makes you a very unusual little girl. And most of the girls are in dance. I was in tap dance class. I was doing ballet at the time. Never heard of martial arts as a thing you could really study. Although I did like the movies. So what did you want to be outside of, I'm sure you didn't even think martial arts was a career. What did you want to be when you were young?
Well, I think the very first thing that comes to mind is I'm an animal lover. So I think the first thing I wanted to do is be a veterinarian, because I've always had animals. But as I got older, I started getting more involved in fitness, and then I started working at the health club that my friends' parents were. And I thought I would probably open up a gym, or I would open up a martial arts school. I went to college to be an artist. And while I was there, I went to Boston University. I thought, I want to be doing martial arts. I don't want to be doing this. So I left and came home and opened up my first martial arts school in Pennsylvania. And ever since then, it's always been my life. From 1981 to 85, I was competing in professional competition, and martial arts taught me how to set goals. So I set this goal. I wanted to be undefeated for 5 years and then quit and retire as number one. And I went to mainland China back in 1982 when it was, really hard to even get in there. I'm training in the mountains of Chengdu. I went to Taiwan. I went to Hong Kong. I had this fire, this fuel under me, is that I just want to be the best. And I just kept training and training. And I reached that goal, after 5 years. And then I started doing movies. So kind of like my path was almost like predetermined. It was set. This is the route I'm supposed to be on. So I think ever since opening up that martial arts school, that was always in my mind that's, I was going to do things that were all martial art related.
How old were you when you opened that school?
I was 19.
Okay, definitely predetermined, because there is no other path for you. That is what you're destined to do. Now, when you started in movies, first movie was what?
First movie I did was Yes, Madam. It was a Hong Kong movie. And that's an interesting story because I was on the West Coast demonstration team with Ernie Reyes. And this was a phenomenal group of martial artists that used to travel around. Actually, it was the first demonstration team ever assembled. And the editor from Inside Kung Fu, Paul Maslick, called Ernie and he said, there's a Hong Kong producer here looking for a guy. They want to come up with the next Bruce Lee. Can you bring your guys down for the audition? And he said, yeah, what about the girls? And they said, well, you could bring the girls down, but they're really looking for a guy. So we all went down, auditioned. And I remember Corey Yoon was doing the auditions, famous Hong Kong director. And I did some forearm fighting, self-defense and weapons. And Corey said, I want to go with a girl, not a guy. So that was in 1985. So off to Hong Kong I went. And it's, it's a good lesson that, sometimes, if you really try hard, you can change someone's mind. Like they were actually looking for a guy, so off to Hong Kong, 1985. My first movie was Yes, Madam with Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yep.
Kind of fun how that's played out. My first movie was Splatter University. I was doing horror films around the 80s. Very different energy.
Yeah.
And so that came out. Did that make a dent in your career? That said, I want to be doing it in movies, or were you still focused on martial arts only?
Well, at this time, I thought this was just kind of one of the adventures in the life of Cynthia Rothrock. I'd do one movie and that would be it. That first movie took 7.5 months. So I'm living in Hong Kong that time. And all I remember, it was really funny. I kept thinking that, ooh, I'm in a movie. Someday maybe I'll be on the poster and I could show my kids, look, your mom was in a movie. So that was like what was going through my mind at that time. After the movie came out, actually, Sammo Hung started looking at the daily. So he signed me to do Shanghai Express. So since that was my final and fifth year of competing, I was just like, okay, now I'm going to do movies. But it wasn't until toward the end of Yes, Madam that I realized, oh, this is a new career path for me. I thought it would just be like, a one-time fun thing to do.
How excited were you when Michelle won the Oscar this year?
Oh yeah, that was awesome. It was good to see.
What was she like back then? What was she like when you guys were working together?
Well, when I went over there, not too many people spoke English, and Michelle was the only one that spoke English. So, and since we were like, it was a buddy picture, we were teamed up as a kind of like cops, that we became really, really good friends, and we trained together, we supported each other, because that movie was quite difficult. We had a lot of injuries, both of us on that. And that's just this typical for Hong Kong filming. So we were a big support team. And at that time, she was married to Dixon Poon, and it was his company that was doing the film. And when it came out, I had offers from Golden Harvest, Cinema City, Dixon's company, which was D&B Films, to do it, to continue. And I went with Golden Harvest because at that point, I heard of Golden Harvest. I knew Jackie Chan. I knew his old Kung Fu movies. So it was always like Golden Harvest, Golden Harvest. And I think Dixon wasn't really happy that I went with Golden Harvest. And then we kind of lost, connection, Michelle and I. But like during that time, we were like such a support team for each other and had the same goal in mind. Like here, Corey Yoon has taken this chance of putting 2 female leads doing an action picture. Yeah.
Now, okay, so I forgive me, I have not seen the movie. I cannot wait to see it. Is it in English and in Chinese?
Well, when we were over there shooting, it was, they shoot with no sound. Back then, there was no sound at all. So it gets dubbed, and they dub it in all different languages. But it was funny because when I went over there, I was used to seeing Hong Kong movies, period films, so I thought they were going to dress me in Chinese clothes. I'd have these long black braids with razor blades in them, and I'd be twirling them around. I didn't know what to expect. And I get over there and they're like, no, you play Cindy, a cop from England. And I'm like, oh, I wear like just regular clothes. They're like, yeah. So it was totally, I had no idea what to expect. I'm thinking, I'm flying into Hong Kong. I'm thinking of Enter the Dragon. I'm coming to Hans Island, going over the harbor and stuff, So it was all a learning experience for me. So I think you can see that movie dubbed. You could see it subtitled. You could see it in different languages, depending on what version you get.
Well, I want everyone. I've got a whole bunch of people listening to us live. So it's called Yes, Madam, starring Cynthia Rothrock and Michelle Yeoh. I can't wait to see this. And so now we're starting a film career, which must have been so very exciting back then. Was it more in Asia or more here to start with?
I was all in Asia. Actually, my first, I did one movie in where did we do it? In Thailand. It was called No Retreat, No Surrender Part 2. That was a co-production with a Hong Kong company and an American company, but pretty much I did 7 films there. And then when my contract was up with Golden Harvest, I was really popular in distribution, different countries for doing martial art movies. So I started getting offers, from, America doing that. So then from that point on, it was actually, my life has been so crazy. I literally had a contract with Sylvester Stallone to shoot a movie called The Executioner. And he set me up with his agent, with his attorney, and they didn't want me doing any more Hong Kong movies. So that's why I didn't go back there, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in a movie with Sylvester Stallone, and I got to listen to everything they say. And that movie never went. Never went. And it was funny because back in that day, we had what was called a pay or play. That meant you signed a contract. If they didn't do it, you still got paid. And to this day, I got paid more for that film than I ever had. But I would have rather have not got paid anything and done, the movie with Stallone. But that was just
Well,
part of
I
my
think, I
world.
think, it's interesting in that world, in that industry, it's never quite what we think. And I will say it's probably a lot of luck for people who end up really making it, and very, very small numbers. But you've had a chance to work with some of the great people that how many films have you done?
I've done probably a little bit over 70 right now.
I think that's like the most you can possibly do. You and Sean Connery, and he lived to 90 something, right? All right,
Yeah.
I want to do a quick jump and then we'll come back if we have time. There's a reason that Cynthia and I are hanging out together. You've decided after all these years that you're going to jump into the producer hat. Have you ever done that before?
I have not. No, this was the first time.
Okay, so this is wildly exciting, guys. One of the things about being a woman in the film industry, there's not a lot of women producers. It used to be a lot of, you're the co-star. Even if you're the star of the movie, it's the guy's movie. And not until recently have you seen women headlining movies and getting the respect that they deserve. But I would assume in martial arts movies, that's still mostly the guys, yes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was lucky that Golden Harvest, decided they wanted to go with female leads, and those movies would be quite successful. But then again, you would do some that's like, okay, yeah, you're a good fighter, but in the end, the guy has to come in to save you. I feel though, even you're looking back like in the 80s and 90s, it still was a big progress for me to star in like Sworn to Justice, China O'Brien, a female lead in action pictures, but still the world wasn't, the producers still weren't ready. They would always like, all right, well, we'll rather get, Sharon Stone to do this or something, like instead of having like an action star. Even the Expendables, they had all the guys in it, but they didn't have the women, so it's always been in my mind that someday I want to do my own film. Because, when we're doing action pictures, I don't have any control over it. I always want to make sure the action is incredible. And sometimes you get to set, it isn't, it's like, oh my God, yeah, we're going to have 6 hours to do this scene. And you get to set, it's like, we have 20 minutes to do it, and you're not happy with it. And I said, someday I'm going to do my movie where I'm going to pick the cast and I'm going to be in control of the lighting, of the costume, of the story, and number one, the action. And finally, last year, I just decided, yes, I'm going to do this. Started with a storyline. My partner Robert and I wrote it with another writer. We are producing it, starring in it, and I'm just so excited. And I'm so excited to have you in it. I'm so blessed. You are going to be phenomenal. And you know what? It's like the whole cast here. It's handpicked by me, and this movie, Black Creek, it's a dark, gritty Western. And that's because that's what I like. That's the kind of movies I like. So I'm hoping that everybody will enjoy it, because I am so trying my best to make this like one of the best films I've ever done.
My girl, you are doing a phenomenal job. I feel blessed in my life. Many of my audience knows my journey. And I stopped acting for a little while after Hollywood I had the lead in television series, and then my name wasn't big enough to launch the series. And they gave my role of the bad girl to Bo Derek. And I just was reminded that Hollywood is made up of very strange types, and who they think should be famous and who they think should be successful. And I went off to work on my business and raise my children, but I've missed my acting career. And I said to my daughter, who I'm in business with, I said, I cannot wait to go back and be in a movie. I miss that so much. Seeing my name on a call sheet has always been one of the highlights. And with that, around my birthday, your film came into my sphere. And I don't think I could be happier. Not only that, but I know your producers, from Christopher Howard, who helped me start my business career, to Dawn the Dragon Wilson, who you and I both work with. Guys, he's an 11-time world champion kickboxer. He's a fan of my fitness product, which helped me with my launch, and just an amazing guy. We just did a table read. To see the two of you together, it is like an absolute dream what he does for you and your character. But I will tell you, when we come back, we're going to talk a little about the movie, because I'll tell you what I've been telling people. Obviously you created it, you're starring in it, but I think it's a little bit of a metaphor for the sex trafficking world that we're dealing with now. And I'm like, set in the 1890s, the way you guys come in and save the day and help women who are being persecuted or prostituted, and it's horrible. I'm almost looking at Richard Norton, who, by the way, sexiest bad guy ever. Oh my gosh, guys, this is going to be the most amazing movie. And I get to be his, well, maybe his sidekick. But it reminded me a little of Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that crazy? Don't tell anybody, because we don't want anyone to think about it that way. All right, we're going to take our first break. I'm so honored right now. When we come back, Cynthia has taken what everybody dreams of. What is the biggest dream that you have in life? What scares you the most? And saying, I'm just going to dive headfirst into it. And what I love about you and the way you're doing it is, if you look back to your life, which is the movie, where's the Cynthia Rothrock story? All right, guys, we'll be right back after this message. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Forbes Factor. We focus on health, wealth, and happiness. We're right back after this message. Don't go away.
All clear. Let me get that saved. We'll be good to go in just a second.
All right, so we are live in front of all my Facebook audience. You know, it's very funny. I sat in I sat in a lawyer's office many years ago, and he was telling me, as I was telling him the story of my life, like your life, he said, you know, Sandy would be great to play you. And I thought, he said, yeah, I represent Sandra Bullock and Claire Danes and Donald Belisario and some major players. Well, I thought that was kind of silly back then, or I had no sense of self-esteem. Well, a couple of years ago, do you remember the movie Joy?
Yeah.
Well, that's based on Joy Mangano, who is a friend of mine, who I work with on Home Shopping, who created her whole industry. And in the movie, Jennifer Lawrence plays her and Robert De Niro plays her dad. Well, I knew her dad in real life very well. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, she got to sit at the Oscars. Her character got nominated, won a Golden Globe. And I'm like, as I'm thinking this, I'm now seeing the Cynthia Rothrock story. Who's going to play you in the movie of your life? Is there is there a young female martial artist?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there is.
I would think, come on, the follow-up to this movie is your life story, because I'm listening to it and I'm loving this. Can you imagine who at 19 opens a martial arts studio in Scranton, Pennsylvania? I mean, that's a great beginning to a story.
Yeah. And especially, like I said, back in that day, you know, I remember we were doing a demonstration in a health club, you know, and this guy was like, who wants to train from a woman, you know? And he's like, yeah, well, let's see if you can fight me, you know? And I did the old, hey, if you can get past my students, then you can fight with me, you know, the old thing I saw in Hong Kong movies.
Right.
And we did the demonstration, and afterwards he sent a bottle of Dom Perignon to the table, and he signed up the next day, you know? So it was changing a lot of minds, because, you know, back then to have a female instructor was really kind of a crazy. I remember, you know, doing a seminar in Alaska, and there were a couple girls there, and they were like, can you wear lipstick? And I'm like, why not? Why? That has nothing to do with training, you know?
I am all ready for your next segment when you're forward.
Cannot wait to come. Yes. Is there a website or anything you want to drive people to at all, by the way?
Yeah, they can go to, well, they can find out about the movie at blackcreekmovie.com. And my website is cynthiarothrockofficial.com.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a minute, because I've got a lot of people watching live, by the way. They're very excited for you. All right, we're ready, Matt.
All right. Have a great next segment going in 4, 3, 2.
Hey everybody, it's Forbes Riley. We're back with the Forbes Factor and my very special guest. I'm having the time of my life. I hope you're enjoying this. And if you do, make sure that you like and follow us and share this with your friends. This is a very special episode. I'm here with Cynthia Rothrock, my producer, my hero, my idol. I don't know. I got a whole bunch of titles that she doesn't know about. I don't want to fawn over her, because that's just kind of wonderful. All right, I'm here with martial arts superstar and now producer and the star of Black Creek, the movie, Miss Cynthia Rothrock. Ooh, I just love saying that. You have no idea how happy I am. It's a bit of a dream come true. When people say to you, it's too hard, I can't do it, what do you tell them?
Oh, I just say, you know what, you can't give up. You can't have that attitude. That is even not in my vocabulary anymore. And I've learned from early days, right there, you're putting a negative, and you're not going to do it, you know? So you have to, you know, everybody fails at things. Everybody does, but you just have to keep on going. You have to learn from it, you know, and accept a failure as a learning curve, you know, and the more positive because I've experienced this in my life, you know, because I've done so many things that I gave up on, and it gets easier. It gets easier, you know, and it's mindset. It's mindset totally. You know, you have to change your mindset, and it doesn't matter. It's not a race. Doesn't matter. You know, you keep going forward at your own pace, as long as you keep moving ahead and ahead. Things just get easier and better.
In the martial arts world, who do you look up to?
Who do I look up to? Oh my gosh, I look up to so many people. First of all, I totally respect people that get a black belt because there's a lot of hard work that goes into that, you know, a lot of training, a lot of mental and physical training. I respect every martial art instructor that I've trained with. You know, I think martial arts is all about respect, and we just respect everybody for what they go through, what, you know, it takes to get to be a black belt or a martial art teacher. So there's like so many people, you know. I respect you so much. There's power women that are powerful, helping other people, you know, and it's just, yeah, it's just, there's too many to even say to single anybody out. But
Is there you know, it's funny, I know Wing Chun, it was started by a Chinese nun, one of the first women in the world of martial arts. Is there a woman that you could look up to? And I say this because in my world of motivational speakers, that's one thing that's been driving me, is that there are not, didn't have a lot of female role models. I had role models, but none who were doing exactly what I'm doing the way I'm doing it. You?
yeah. You know, there's nowadays, there's so many women getting involved in stunts, you know, getting involved in film work. And they always say, you know, thank you for paving the way, you know, or, you know, because of what I saw you do, I'm doing that. But I think, you know, it's a funny story. When I was a kid, I had a book, like you had the Aikido book.
Yeah.
I had a book by a woman called Bo Sim Mark, who is Donnie Yan's mother.
Oh, wow.
And I just saw, oh my gosh, it's a woman. And she was doing a sword form, and I would practice that sword form out of the book, you know, and she was an inspiration to me because she was the very first woman that I've seen anything in print or whatever. Because here I am thinking, oh, I'm one of the few women that do this.
Yeah.
And to this day, I haven't met her yet, but I would love to. I think she's like in Boston, but she probably doesn't know it, but she has been like an inspiration to me.
Well, that's how I feel about when I remember when I met you at the gala many years ago, when you're getting these beautiful awards. You were the most exciting person that I was like, oh my gosh, as a female, just finding women role models who have stuck to it. I mean, because most of your fights, I would imagine, are with men. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know, like as the time goes on, more and more women are getting involved in it. I mean, each year there's more and more and more. And I think because they just realize, you know, the importance of learning how to defend yourself. But, you know, I always say it's such a great sport to do because you're learning defense and you're also getting in the greatest shape possible, you know.
One of the reasons I continued,
win-win.
yeah, one of the reasons I continued, I was in New York and I wanted to stop, but I had a really cute instructor. And so I would, I remember going, and I used to get hit a lot, and so I'm like, okay, I'm still willing to be here. But I use this in my teaching. I don't know why I'm so drawn to the world of martial arts. I think in a former life, that was part of my upbringing. I have this fantasy of being in Nepal or training in Japan. I just would love, I wish I had done more. And as I listened to you training over there and being in movies over there, it was such a fantasy of mine. Like, I feel like I've done it before. And I talk about when you walk into an environment, how you bow, how you are a white belt because at black at some point phrase and becomes white again. A lot of the lessons I teach about life all come from martial arts. And as I watched the world culture, when they walked onto this giant arena, who walked in and touched the mat and honored themselves and honored the environment, we don't do that. We walk into schools now, we want to hit teachers and hurt each other and have zero respect. I think that's the essence of martial arts. There's such an honoring of wisdom, of elders, and also to not think that you know it all. You know, that teacup that is completely empty before you want someone else to fill it. What's some of your lessons, life lessons that you get from martial arts?
Well, I'd say the first one is never to give up, to always try your best, no matter what you're doing, always try your best. And also to be positive, You know, I always have that feeling, if you don't have anything good to say about someone, don't say it, you know. I think the biggest thing, if I had to sum it up, is being the best person that I can be.
See, that's the big lesson from this. It's very different from sports in that the lessons of martial arts go to your core, go to who you are, how you function, how you respect people. All right. We have limited time. I want to get to this movie called Black Creek. How do we find out more about the movie itself?
You can go on blackcreekmovie.com. The important thing about this, and it's about having faith in yourself and believing in yourself. I raised most of this money through crowdfunding, and a lot of my male friends said, no, don't do it. They said, you're not going to raise the money. And they said a certain actor tried it and he only made so much. Why do you think you could do it? So I started getting a little apprehensive, like going, oh, geez, what if I don't? It's going to be embarrassing. And, someone said to me, well, you're not that person, you're you. And I went, yes, you're right. And I just see, again, it was that little negativity coming in that could have stopped me from making this dream come true of my lifetime. So that's what I'm saying is, you gotta stay positive. And I went for it full force, and we became the second most funded action picture in the history of Kickstarter, which I'm so excited. So we still have that campaign going on for probably another week or so. Every penny that I made has gone into the budget to make it better. If I make some more, then that just means, oh, maybe we could have more horse. We could break this mirror right here instead of not having it, and the truly blessing about this is that so many people, all my friends are coming to this project out of love of just doing a good film and bringing the best together, so not only, are we trying our best, that everybody is there for the same reason, to do it. And I think, we are just going to pull off one heck of a picture.
Well, I'm also very happy to invest in you, into the concept, the project, for so many reasons, guys. If you feel like you want to be part of a feature film, if you've ever had that fantasy, you go to Black Creek, the movie?
Movie.com.
Blackcreekmovie.com. Say again, one more time.
blackcreekmovie.com. And they can read about it. They could read about the cast. They can read about what we're doing. We start shooting October 30th in Benson, Arizona. And we're shooting at Mescal Ranch, which is really kind of exciting for me because that's where they shot Tombstone, The Quick and the Dead, Outlaw Josie Wales, all these great iconic Westerns, we're going to be shooting in that location.
Now, when you sat down to create this movie, I love the storyline. I love your character. I love how you learn from Dawn's character. For me, it hit so many buttons that made it such a passion project. Why is this story so important to you?
Well, it's important to me because number one, it's a strong female gunslinger, which you haven't seen before. It's a Western. Remember, I said I'd like to do things that are different, that has a lot of action involved. All my characters in it have meaning. They're not just thrown in there. They all have meaning, and it's just important, have you're in it, have these strong, powerful women in it. And it's just, I like Westerns, and that's why I wanted to do that. But it's so important to me because it's my vision. The whole thing is my vision. And to pull it together, I'll tell you, I'll be like, whew, November 15th when we finish.
I'm already seeing the premiere and the party and the accolades, because now you become the female Clint Eastwood meets, I don't know, who else is up there? Clint Eastwood meets, who was one of your other male, not John Wayne, too old. I don't know. We have to, because there's very few people to compare it to have. Sharon Stone kind of came close.
Different. Yeah, it's history. And also, I'm so proud of the fact that, I'm a woman doing it, and I'm bringing all these fabulous casts, these martial artists together, and I hope, that it opens up doors for other women too, that say, hey, if Cynthia can do that, look what she's doing now I can do something.
Oh, no, you're going to hear about this for decades. We are literally at the forefront of history. Because it's a female-driven project, female-funded project, female starring in the project. She's the hero of the movie. It's spectacular on so many levels, and I think it's an important project to be a part of. So, guys, if you want to go to blackcreekmovie.com, please say that you're part of this historic project. What's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about it and so excited to bring it to you. But you also have your own site. If we want to know more about the amazing Cynthia Rothrock, where do we go?
You could go to my website, which is Cynthia Rothrock official.com. I also have a YouTube channel, which is Cynthia Rothrock channel. And also I'm really pretty dominant on Facebook. I try to answer everybody as much as I can and try to stay current, posting something every day about the film or where I'm going to be. So I do stay pretty current on all that too. So if someone wants to get in touch with me, they can do it on any of those platforms.
Is your mom still alive?
No, she's not. She passed away 3 years ago. But interesting story, you know, when I was thinking of doing this, because trust me, it's not easy doing all this stuff together because, you know, we're a small budget, but we actually got like a big budget cast and ideas. So trying to fit this all in, it's, you know, it's hard. Like even like we are taking control of the costumes of everybody, you know, so we're doing like have a lot of hats on. But I heard my mom say to me, you know, before when I was ready to do this on Kickstarter, saying it's do it now or never, you know. And one thing I've learned as I got older is that when we